problem was, like, every time someone put food in front of me in my first trip to Serbia, I ate it. And by the end, I was, like, dying of, like, eating way too much. Like, I swear I got sick a couple times just from eating. And Slava's one of those days. All right. This is a video that I've been meaning to make for years. And I've never really known where to start, and I've never known how to do it because it's fundamental to who I am now. But my life changed definitely forever when I went to Serbia for the first time 4 years ago. People who know me, who watch this, will know that my wife is Serbian. She's from Belgrade. I met her in America. We met at college in Delaware. And we fell in love, and we're both photographers. And in 2021, we were just dating. We were going to go to Serbia for the month of December into January. It was like a 6-week trip. I've never really been out of the country. I went to Bermuda once, but this trip was huge. I was going to meet her family, her brother, and all her friends and see where she's from. In this video, I'm going to go over a few things. I want to make other videos like that get into more detail about some of the experiences, but in this one, I want to share a few stories. My first Slava proposing to my wife while we were there on that trip, and a few of the things that I love the most about Serbia. And I'll start with that. I vividly remember and will never forget the first time that I was there. I've been there 4 times. I'm going again for my 5th very soon. And it's fitting that this 5th trip is at the same period, the same time as that first trip, 4 years later. But like I said, I remember very vividly what it was like to leave Nikola Tesla Airport and just look at the road signs, the road, the trees, the buildings for the very first time. And that brings me to like something that I feel really changed in me when I went to Serbia. I've always been a photographer for 10 years or so, capturing moments from my life. A different side of me opened up the first time I was there. Like I said, I was just infatuated by like the most random things. I wanted to see the curbs. I wanted to see what the lamps look like, the buildings, and I photographed so much. And I really got into street photography there. It like ignited something in me creatively. It's a romantic city, Belgrade, and all around it. And they've been through so much. You know, it's the most bombed city, I think, in Europe. And they still have this resolve and this beautiful character in the people. They're welcoming and they're nice. And I'll get in on that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my street photos. And I took a lot of photos of people looking at the camera. I took a lot of photos of just the most random things. And one of the nicest comments was one of our Serbian friends that we met in school. She said she could imagine herself there looking at my photos. And that was very special. And I think that was the beginning of my love for that place, you know. And obviously the thing I love the most, and everybody says this, is the people. Like I said, they were unbelievably welcoming, especially for a person whose country bombed them in the 90s. And that's a topic for another time. But I just want to say that like almost everybody I met, besides for the old lady who called me a little kitty when I took her photo on the street, was very nice and welcoming. And so one of the things I felt from the very first day getting picked up by her parents was just welcomed into their home, into their life, and it was like that everywhere. Her friends brought me in like I was their friend already, and everything just meshed so well. We went out so much just walking the streets of Belgrade. They showed me everything, the city, New Belgrade, these spots where they went to high school, where they used to hang out, and mainly Kalemegdan Park. You know, we walked there a bunch, and that place comes up again in this video. Yeah, and so talking about the people, I wanted to say that, like, that's everybody's cliche answer when they say, what's your favorite thing about this place? Maybe not everybody's. It's definitely mine. I definitely see it often. And I will say that I've tried to learn Serbian over the years. Like, ja ne priča dobro, ali ne znam. I've got a long way to go, but I feel like you can't really truly know the people and truly have the conversations with people until you learn the language. And I've been trying. It's been difficult, but I've always felt since the day I met Ksenija and the day that, you know, when we started falling in love and dating and things like that, that like, you know, you don't really truly know someone unless you can have a conversation with them in the language that they speak, their first language. And so I feel that way, especially with her parents. Her mom speaks a little English. Her dad doesn't. That trip, like, it turned out to be so unique in a way because it's this man meeting this boy at the time, you know, that's dating his daughter that he's never met, and we can't really talk to each other. You know, he can't really give me the lay of the land or tell me what's what, but I could feel the love ever since I got there with her family and how much they cared for her, how much they look out for her. And it was so funny when we would go travel. You know, we went to Mokrogora, we went to see the bridge on the Drina in Bosnia, and we went to see just beautiful landmarks and historical places. And I filmed so much of it because, like I said, I was just infatuated by everything, you know, just like I was re-energized being in a different country and just seeing all these new things. And so he would see me with the camera. Like we went to Goyabats Castle and he'd see me with the camera. It was almost like in real time. He turned into like a tour guide that couldn't really speak to me but would speak to her and then have her translate. And so we have these really funny moments like when we're in Mokogora and we're talking about how long these trains have been around, and you know, he would say it and then have her say it, and it'd be like right there. It'd also be numbers so I could read it too.
This is from 1906. 1906.
1906.
Wow. Yeah, it just became like this bonding thing, and he taught me so much about history, about how strong Serbian Orthodox is to Serbian people, how when they were occupied by the Turks for hundreds of years, it's all they had, and especially like during the communist years, they had to pray and to celebrate their slavas in private, you know. And also I learned so much from her mom, you know, the same kind of things, the historical things, stuff about their family. She took so many photos of Ksenija and her brother Maki when they were kids, and she showed me through all those, and like I just felt so welcomed. And so that started with her parents, and obviously the food was amazing, like unbelievable. The food that Ksenija's mom made, the food that we would get at Restaurant Dren, her dad's restaurant, the food that we would try at any time, you know, the fish, the sarma, the ivar, the chivapis, just everything was so different, so good, and so much of it, like didn't know how to say no. So one recurring thing throughout the whole trip was like her dad would always say like pivo, vino, or rakija. That means beer, wine, or rakija. Rakija is the Serbian brandy, like made from plums, Slivovic specifically. And I didn't, you know, from my culture, the way I was raised, like you don't say no when people offer you things. And in their culture, it's you always offer. Hosting is such a big deal to Serbian people. And you know, my wife is an amazing host when we have people over here, you know, and so the way that works is like a lot of times the women handle the food and a lot of times serve the meals, and then the men are always looking after what people are drinking. It was so funny that first time because I became an alcoholic basically, because every time he'd offer me something I would say yes, you know, and so I was drinking wine, beer, and rakija like every day and mixing them. And surprisingly, we went on a trip to Ljubovia where we got homemade rakija. We got snowed in with her friends and we got homemade rakija from down the street, like me and one of Ksenija's best friends, now fiancée, but at the time we were both just boyfriends. He didn't speak barely any English and I didn't speak any Serbian, and they tasked both of us to walk up the street and buy rakija. You know, we're snowed in, it's like a foot of snow, from this local guy, and he like pours it out of this thing like kind of like someone's pouring like gas or fuel into a car, and he's pouring that into like a glass bottle, which I still freaking have that bottle, by the way. All my books are about to fall apart, but that's that same bottle from that trip. And he also put it in like a Fanta bottle as well. All right, a little post-recording update to that damn bottle, dude. I've had that bottle holding up those books for 4 years. I pull it down to show it off in this freaking video, and then I break it. Just trying to move this chair out of the way. Dude, I guess I gotta make more memories. We drank so much of that, and I swear I was so drunk, next day didn't feel a thing. But New Year's was not the same. New Year's I drank some store-bought rakija and was dead the next day. But yeah, so on that trip, I was there from December through to January. A lot of things happened on that trip, and I came with a secret. I remember before the trip, when I told my mom that I was going to go to Serbia for that long, she said, well, you know, you should propose. And I got to thinking like, yeah, actually, that is the perfect time to do it. And I got a ring and smuggled it over to Serbia, and we got there on like the 6th or 8th or something, and I proposed on the 24th. And I'll tell that story in a bit. But first, was Slava, December 19th. And their Slava is Saint Nicholas. And I always joke because that's like kind of Americans' Slava too. That's our Saint Nick, Santa. You know, they hate that joke. I understand. It's funny still to me. But Slava was so funny. And one of the surprises and one of the things that I did, and that I'm so thankful that I did, was because I was going to propose to Ksenija later that month, I wrote so much of what was going on and the story of that in this journal. And so I'm going to read like a page or two at two separate times, one from Slava, because it sums up what was so funny about it. Today is my first Slava. I have no idea what it'll entail, but it seems like my kind of party celebration, like a Thanksgiving that goes late. If only I could speak Serbian. I'm sticking to rakija tonight, and I'm already pretty hungry. I don't even know what that time that was, but that is a funny story. I know we'll drink a lot, but I hope at no point either Misho or Gotza tells Ksenija anything about the plan. They knew my plan to propose to her. And I said, I'm surprised she didn't find out during the songs her dad played on her birthday. I heard these Slavas can get pretty awesome. Apparently last year he showed my... Sorry, I shouldn't say that. We just finished having lunch with the priest. His apprentice was there. It lasted from about noon to 2 p.m. I'm not sure what it was called because a few more important things happened other than lunch, but it was very special and an honor that they had me be a part of their tradition. So the priest came over and his apprentice, and we broke the bread, and they welcomed me into these Orthodox traditions without any judgment and just kind of letting me experience it. I didn't understand anything, and Maki and Ksenija translated a lot to me later, but it was beautiful. It was a special moment seeing the family come together and the priest come over to the family home and break bread in that way and just kind of sit at the table and have like kind of lunch or breakfast. And we all ate. So we ate a full meal, like lunch right then. You know, that's important to notice because I write here, now we nap until I guess 6 p.m. when the guests come. I've had 3 shots of rakija and that glass of wine that you have when you break the bread. So the guests didn't show up at 6 p.m. They showed up at 3 p.m. and they didn't stop. And this first story was really funny because it was a friend, first neighbor comes over at 3, and we had all just eaten like at 2. And so it's an hour later and the food is amazing. It was like this fish soup. There was bread. There was like shopska salad. There was like fish. There was so much food, and it was amazing. And her mom brings out a plate in front of me, her dad, and the guest. Like I said, we just ate, and this plate is sitting in front of us, and the guest doesn't touch it, and her dad doesn't touch it, and I don't touch it, and I'm not. They're talking in Serbian, and I can't speak anything. And her brother, Maki, if you're watching this, you left me, man. We're sitting there, and I see the guest kind of wants to eat, but her dad, Misho, is not eating because we just ate, so he's kind of waiting. And so I'm like, well, I will bite the bullet. And so I start eating, then the guest starts eating, and then, so just so he feels comfortable. And then, like I said, that just happened like again at 4:00, and it just kept going on. And so one of these things I wrote was, the guests showed up at 3 p.m. and they didn't stop. It went until about 1 a.m. They had a candle burning, and I made a joke that the candle would outlast Misho. But I take that back. He could have made it all night, and he could have. And we do sometimes. And so that's what it was like. It was just like, for Slava, what I learned is, you don't necessarily invite people. People know it's your Slava. It's your patron saint. And people come over, your neighbors come over, family, and friends, and they celebrate with you. And, it's beautiful because it's like just people would randomly show up, and the party would just keep going. And it was such a wonderful experience to see just the way that people come together through tough times. The Serbian holidays like Slava and listening to her father speak about religion and what it means to the people, it was the start of something. 7 months later, I went back again in the summer when Ksenija and I decided that we were going to get married in Serbia, and we also wanted to get married in a church, the same church that we had Christmas at that first trip. And I got baptized there as an Orthodox Christian, and it was, again, a beautiful experience that I'll talk about another time. But looking back at that first trip and feeling those connections that I was feeling, and just on a spiritual level, feeling connected to Belgrade in a sense. I don't know if it was the history, the people, this family that was welcoming me, the mixture between all those, but it made me want to be a part of it. It made me fall in love with it. It changed my life. And now looking back, knowing that We have our own slava, Saint Simon, and we celebrate it every year since we've gotten married. And it just, I don't really know how to find the words. It's just beautiful, puts it into perspective. Now I want to talk about the big thing that happened on our trip. And there's so many other things. Like I said, I'll break this up and make more videos about different experiences that I had, and more about some of the videos that I filmed there, and places we went and see. Like, I want to do a Bridge on the Drina specific video. But my whole plan in this whole book, this was given as a wedding gift to Ksenija. It started, the first time I wrote in it was 11/22/21. And I wrote, I'm keeping these moments in this little journal because I need to jot this down and chronicle this, but I don't want it to be seen by Ksenija currently in my other journals. It's our own story. And I wrote, but I have the ring, and she has almost found it twice already, both times on the first days I got it. Like I said, I went to Serbia with a plan to propose to her and ask her parents for her hand. And because I knew I didn't speak Serbian, and I'm a photographer, and I captured so much of my life with her, I created a photo book too, one for her parents and one for us. And I was going to show it to her on the day before I proposed, and I gifted it to her parents a week before when I asked them for her hand, and it was special. And so I'm going to try to find a couple things to read from this, because these were my feelings as it was happening. I was writing this as we were experiencing it. So we arrived on the 6th, and it was one of the first things I did when I met her brother. We got a moment to ourselves. I talked to him, and I wrote, last night I spoke with her brother. I showed him the book and the ring. We discussed a bit about the plan, details and such. He advised me to wait until after Slava. Good idea. He didn't say as much, but he seemed on board with it. He even shook my hand and smiled at the end. I guess I'll read this as a thing I wrote, things I was going to say to her parents. And I think I said some of these things when I finally sat down to have the conversation with them. And I said, as I mentioned, this book is a collection of the great memories we have in America. And though I feel like I know Ksenija very well, I only really know that side of her. That's why I'm so blessed to be able to be here. I'm getting to see a side of her that I've only heard about, and though I don't know Serbian and am very new to Serbia, I have a deep love for it already. I would love to get to know Serbia even more. I can tell over the years how much Ksenija loves Serbia and her family, and I can only imagine how difficult it is for you all to send her off to America and entrust in me these past 3 years. More than anything in this world, I love Ksenija. I have and always will put her before myself. Her safety and her happiness are directly tied to mine. I can't imagine a life without her next to me. And so, though she doesn't know about this, we have spoken a bit about it, and with your blessing, I would like to ask for the hand of your daughter. Will you have me? And I wrote this in her dad's restaurant, and then I have this funny little note where when I get closer to the day, I'm very nervous, and I have her brother kind of write in handwriting here, like, the focus is on my face, so I don't know how it's gonna. Maybe I'll put a picture or something, but it's Želim da vas pitam da ženim vašu ćerku. I would like to ask you to marry your daughter, or for the hand to marry your daughter. I don't know exactly how that translates. Maki translating will be a funny thing. I'm about to tell that story now. So I wrote this on the 14th of December, 2021. I wrote, last night I had the talk with her parents. Maki was there to translate. It was difficult. My body is sore from it. The talk was difficult, the most difficult I've ever had in my life. I cried a few times and felt very nervous. I know that our words didn't come across perfectly because Maki was translating. Though he did a great job, I did feel a sense of guilt that I was taking their daughter away. Though I know how much I love Seni and how good we are together, in those moments, I can't help but forget and place my heart elsewhere and become vulnerable, if that makes any sense. She is their little girl. At first it seemed like Seni's dad was upset that she wasn't there. That's the way Maki translated it. She should be here. When I asked him that question, can I ask for the hand of your daughter? He paused and said this thing kind of in a straight face, like imagine a Serbian man just straight saying, she should be here. That's how he translated. Maki turned to me and said, she should be here. He says she should be here. I was like, no, in America we do this. I ask you if I can have your daughter for marriage, and then you say, give me your blessing, and then I ask her. And I feel like the thing that wasn't really talked about and that I didn't even really know is Ksenija didn't tell her parents that she wanted to marry me. So here they are hearing this from the first time from me. in English or in Maki's translation. We'll never know how that was. And so later, when we broke it down a little bit more, turns out he meant that she is the one to answer this. They both, her mom and dad, emphasize how much they want to let her make that decision when it comes to all of this in the future. That's why it may have come off odd when I made the plans and mentioned it to them. Overall, it was positive. They broke out the wine, we jivalid. Her mom smoked cigarettes in the house, and they spoke some wisdom to me about life, religion, belief in oneself, and sticking together through whatever happens. Then we talked about how marriage is a technicality and how we should do whatever makes our lives easier. I mentioned how I'd like to have the wedding in Serbia, and they said we could do whatever we want, but to make sure we handle the visa situation correctly. Overall, they approved, and Misho later mentioned to Maki that this would have been dumb if it didn't happen on this trip. And I love that, because it would have been, looking back, like, I thank my mom for giving me the idea, and it would have been dumb if I didn't do this on this trip. I was very nervous. Like I write later, the next day, I write, I spent the day at home with Sen and her mom. I went through all of their old family photos. I saw Seni grow up. I saw Maki grow up. I saw so much from their parents' lives. It made me wish my photos were accessible. Right now, I'm having a vivid deja vu. Looking through the old photos made me realize that I love that girl even more, and it made me realize that I would stand with her through whatever good or bad comes to us. I'll stand next to her. She was once this precious little girl, and now I'm lucky to call her my beautiful woman. I guess I couldn't really say fiancé or wife or whatever because I hadn't proposed yet. And I know how big of shoes I have to fill looking after her, but I'll spend my life trying and doing so. Though we've struggled a bit to balance being guests and being on vacation, and I haven't been the most comfortable guest. Americans, This trip has been amazing and eye-opening. I've gotten to see so much from Senya's home country, family, and culture, and learned to love another side of her and love her more deeply, and also recognize that she is here to spend time with her parents, not cater to me or go out and run and see Belgrade all the time. That's the thing. I got there, I just wanted to go to old Belgrade, Like, I'm from America. We don't have anything that old. And I remember one time we're like getting ready to go, and it's pretty cold, and her mom's like, "Where are you going?" I'm just like, Belgrade. She just looked at me and rolled her eyes. This is special, because I know this video is bouncing around, and I appreciate if you're just watching through it. I wanted it to be more structured, but whatever. It's emotional looking back at these moments, years later, and kind of like even reading this journal to you is special, and I'm so thankful that I wrote this stuff. But I want to read something that happened, after her dad knew that I was going to propose in a couple days, but on Senya's birthday, we went to Dren, her dad's restaurant, and they have tamburashi, which is like Mexican mariachi band, but Serbian tamburashi band, and they play like Serbian folk songs and all this type of stuff. And that's another thing, like over my years coming to Serbia, like I love that band. That's the Dren band. That's what they want to be called. Dren tamburashi. I asked. So at Dren, the tamburashi played so many songs, and her dad cried multiple times. It was an emotional experience, a moment or a collection of moments that made the night incredible. To see a good man that emotional, knowing what's coming, and living the moment, creating such a special environment, it made me emotional. I cried a bit too. He kept telling her to translate me songs. He also said that I'm swimming good here in Serbia. I hope to live up to that in the future. We finished the night with cake in their home. Nina, Katja, Maki, and Georgia, their childhood friend that moved to Canada at 12, all came over. Ksen looked like the same little girl from the pics in those photo albums. She is that same little girl, and somehow I'm the lucky one that found her. There was a cake. I took photos. It felt like a very special moment. It's almost 3 a.m. and the girls are still down there talking. I'm hoping Ksen brings me water. Ksen is 23 today, the same age I was when we met. And so this kind of brings me to the main part of the video. Part so connected to me, that like when I write about it in this book, I call it One Night in Belgrade. And on my latest trip earlier this year, I made a short film that's going to come out very soon called One Night in Belgrade. And it's not like directly our story, but it's two people falling in love in Belgrade and hitting up some of the spots that we hit up, like Kalemegdan and the trams and just different parts of the city, walking through old Belgrade. And so, yeah, I'm excited to share that soon. But I wanted to read a little bit more of the lead up of what I was feeling before this plan, because this plan was I had this photo book, I had the ring that I smuggled from America without her knowing, and we planned this special day on the 24th of December. Right now, she's sleeping in her bed, but as she sleeps, I sit so excited for Friday, truly knowing that all the things I've done in my life, I'm doing this one right. The 24th will be one of the most important and special days of my life so far. And it's quite a story. I think it's beautiful. And I was almost like writing my vows before the proposal. And I guess, this part is crucial too, because it's 4 years later, and I do feel proud that every year we've gone to Belgrade since. And I wrote, "This woman who I've seen as an adorable young girl and a fiercely beautiful lady has got my heart until the end of time. And I couldn't be more happy about that. I only hope to live up to the words I've spoken and plan to speak, and to make good on all my promises, to give her the best possible life I can, and give her the freedom to pursue what she loves and travel the world, and to buy a home here in Belgrade that we can visit often as we get older, have kids, and take important steps in life. I can't promise everything will be perfect, and that scares me, but I know I will love this girl with all my heart until the end of time." And then I wrote, "At Slava yesterday, her father almost gave it away. He mentioned that he was going to Ubish's on the 24th, and then Tanya corrected him, saying that I invited them out for Maki's birthday dinner that day. Luckily, she didn't think too much into it. Plus, they sang a song about Moma and her roses. I can tell that this is a very emotional time for him. It has made me emotional as well, and has only deepened my love of Ksenija and her family. They've made this trip very special." All right, so now for the part of the video, the proposal, like the kind of like climax of that trip. And yeah, this was the day before. It's not easy to just get right into the emotional core of what this whole journal and one night in Belgrade is about. I'm with you every day. Not much changes day to day, but so much has over the last 3+ years. So much good, and I've become such a better me because of it all. So much so that somehow I found the courage to do all of this without any doubts. The only thing I truly want out of my life is to spend it with you, Ksenija. All the other details can be figured out later, but on the 24th, I'm going to ask you the most important question I've ever asked anyone. Will you marry me? Because when it's all said and done, you're the only thing that matters to me. This was the morning of. It's interesting how your life can change over a period of time without you really knowing. Those changes live within you subconsciously and come out through nerves, anxiety, stress, whether you like it or not. I've been so nervous and anxious about this life change, and I know that voicing it to someone will relieve that, but I haven't had anyone to voice it to. 2 more hours and I will. The most important person to me. I can finally share almost everything. Deep breaths have been working. She looks so damn gorgeous and beautiful. It's amazing. Maybe last entry before things change forever. She just got back from the bathroom. Got to go. On the next page I write, she said yes. And then the next day I wrote a quote from Charles Bukowski that sums up also the movie I made, that aren't really tied together, but they are to this quote that I wrote 4 years ago. And I wrote, "Some moments are nice, some are nicer, some are even worth writing about." And you'll see in the film how that makes sense, but that's what this whole experience was. It's beautiful that I wrote about it, and I just wanted to reflect on journal a little bit, just some of the pages, some of the writing, some of the things about Serbia that just made me feel so deeply connected, made me want to go back every year and look forward to just being reinvigorated as a creative, as an artist, and see family and continue those beautiful relationships that were started in such an exciting and crazy and scary time. And, one of the coolest things was during the proposal, she didn't know, but I hired her favorite Serbian photographer, and he also photographed our wedding. And there was this whole little side story with like how I didn't have internet when I was there that first time. Now I just use my phone and we rack up the international bill. But that first time I didn't have internet. I was using her hotspot to like see when he was going to be there. And he hit some traffic, so he was running a little bit late. And I was like using her hotspot, asking her if she's having a good time, asking her if I can use her hotspot. And she's like, "Dude, what is going on? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Man, you have no idea what I'm about to show you, like this beautiful photo book and this ring." And so like luckily he made it in time. And yeah, it was special. It's so hard for me to even like go back and break down all of the things that I loved so much about that first trip. And think I will over time. I tried to force it all into one video, like when I was in my head before making this. I don't think that was ever going to be the case. I think that it needed to be a lot like smaller videos about certain subjects, and so I'm going to get to that. But this one is just a reflection on my first trip and how it means so much to me. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video or want to hear more about the stories that I have from Serbia, please subscribe. I really promise you that I do believe that I have a beautiful short film coming out in the next couple weeks. It's called One Night in Belgrade. It's not inspired by that night in Belgrade. Well, it kind of is. It's not the same story, but I'm so excited to share more about it. I might even put like a little image, like a sneak peek. Like only people who watch this video will have seen this image of the movie right now. Hvala puno I vidimo se uskoro, Serbia. Ciao.